Howdy y'all, Galator here. So for episode 8 of Vanilla WoW Book Club, we are going to be reading Mount Hyjal and Illidan's Gift. I'm going to be reading this from the Stormwind's Mage Quarter. The few night elves that survived the horrific explosion rallied together in crudely made rafts and slowly made their way to the only landmass in sight. Somehow, by the grace of Illidan, Malfurion, Tyrande, and Cenarius had survived the Great Sundering. The weary heroes agreed to lead their fellow survivors and establish a new home for their people. As they journeyed in silence, they surveyed the wreckage of their world and realized that their passions had wrought the destruction all around them. Though Sargeras and his legion had been ripped from the world by the well's destruction, Malfurion and his companions were left to ponder the terrible cost of victory. There were many highborn who did survive the cataclysm unscathed. They made their way to the shores of the new land along with the other night elves. Though Malfurion mistrusted the highborn's motivations, he was satisfied that they could cause no real mischief without the well's energies. As the weary mass of night elves landed upon the shores of the new land, they found that the holy mountain, Hyjal, had survived the catastrophe. Seeking to establish a new home for themselves, Malfurion and the Night Elves climbed the slopes of Hyjal and reached its windswept summit. As they descended into the wooded bowl, nestled between the mountain's enormous peaks, they found a small, tranquil lake. To their horror, they found that the lake's waters had been fouled by magic. Illidan, who had survived the sundering as well, had reached Hyjal's summit long before Malfurion and the Night Elves. In his mad bid to maintain the flows of magic in the world, Illidan had poured his vials, which contained the precious waters from the Well of Eternity, into the mountain lake. The well's potent energies quickly ignited and coalesced into a new Well of Eternity. The exultant Illidan, believing that the new well was a gift to future generations, was shocked when Malfurion hunted him down. Malfurion explained to his brother that magic was innately chaotic, and that its use would inevitably lead to widespread corruption and strife. Still, Illidan refused to relinquish his magical powers. Knowing full well where Illidan's ruthless schemes would eventually lead, Malfurion decided to deal with his power-crazed brother once and for all. With Cenarius' help, Malfurion sealed Illidan within a vast, underground barrow prison, where he would remain chained and powerless until the end of time. To ensure his brother's containment, Malfurion empowered the young warden, Maeve Shadowsong, to be Illidan's personal jailer. Concerned that destroying the new well might bring about an even greater catastrophe, the Night Elves resolved to leave it be. However, Malfurion declared that they would never practice the arts of magic again. Under Cenarius' watchful eye, they began to study the ancient arts of druidism that would enable them to heal the ravaged earth and regrow their beloved forests at the base of Mount Hyjal. Alright, so jumping right in, everything before this book has kind of been, Warcraft prehistory, so it wasn't really addressed in the original OG Warcraft games. This is kind of where Warcraft 3 starts. Not really starts, but it plays on after this. So, after the Great Sundering, when you have the different land masses, Malfurion, Tyrande, and I guess Cenarius, this demigod, he hops in their raft, and they all make their way to the new land masses. And this is Kalimdor, the one they wash up on. So the Night Elves wash up on Kalimdor, and they go to their previously sacred mountain, which was Mount Hyjal, and when they climb to the top, they find that Illidan has already beat them there. He's carried a little vial of the Well of Eternity with him. He dumps it in the pond he finds there and creates a new Well of Eternity, which really pisses off Malfurion, who's already been kind of down with Cenarius, learning druidism. He doesn't like arcane magic, so he imprisons his own brother underground for millennia and keeps him chained, and this is where we get Maeve Shadowsong, who's been empowered to keep him imprisoned there. You'll notice this is kind of a theme in the Warcraft universe. So we have this vial of the Well of Eternity, and that's put into Mount Hyjal. The Highborn also wash up on a landmass, but they don't wash up in Kalimdor, they wash up in the Eastern Kingdoms. So the only kind of inconsistency I see here is on page 3, we learn that the Highborn, who survived the Cataclysm unscathed, they wash up on the shores of the new land. and Malfurion mistrusts their motivations. I'm not sure how Malfurion would have known right away that they also survived. I guess some of them would have washed up in Ajara, maybe? I'm not entirely sure how that works out. But they ended up washing up in northern eastern kingdoms, which is why we see them in Quel'Thalas. So overall, the theme of reigniting the Well of Eternity with a little vial you stole will pop up in a few later books, and this kind of sets the stage for Illidan's storyline, who has obviously been a major player in the Warcraft universe. He was like the main protagonist of the Legion expansion and the main antagonist of the Burning Crusade. So I'm going to stop here, and thanks for watching the video. If you have any other suggestions besides these book clubs, I enjoy doing them. They're fun. And until next time, au revoir.